The morning mist clung to the ancient trees of Elderroot Forest as Kylara Moonwhisper moved without sound. Her silver-blue hair flowed behind her like water catching the few rays of sunlight that broke through the dense canopy. Her small dragon, Zephyr, rested on her shoulder. His scales shimmered with colors that changed from deep blue to purple with each breath he took. The bond between them was beyond words, forged in fire and survival. Kylara paused and lifted her nose to the wind. Her elven senses detected something wrong. The scent of metal and magic hung in the air. Hunters were close. She stroked Zephyr's neck gently, feeling the rough patch of scales that had not healed properly from their last escape 3 weeks ago. The little dragon nuzzled against her cheek, offering comfort despite his own pain. "We need to keep moving, little one," she whispered. "The High Council grows bolder with each passing day." Zephyr blinked his intelligent eyes and spread his small wings, ready to take flight if needed. The dragon understood more than most creatures knew. His connection to Kylara went deeper than companion and master. They were survivors together, outcasts from their own kind. The forest floor felt soft beneath her boots as Kylara quickened her pace. She carried few possessions now: a small pack with essential supplies, her curved elven blade, and most importantly, the crystal evidence that would bring down the corrupt council members if she could only find someone to trust with it. The irony tasted bitter in her mouth. Once the most trusted royal guard, now hunted like common prey. The memories of that night haunted her still. She had been assigned to guard the inner chamber during the High Council meeting, a routine task for someone of her rank and skill. But the voices had carried through the ancient doors. Counselor Alindra speaking of the Shadow Dominion, not as enemies but as allies, planning the staged attacks on human settlements that would trigger war, arranging for the assassination of those who opposed her. Kylara had heard too much. That was 3 seasons ago. Now winter approached, and with it fewer places to hide. The council had eyes everywhere. Their reach extended into human lands, spreading lies about a dangerous elven terrorist stealing classified technology and attacking innocent people. The perfect cover for her elimination. Zephyr suddenly stiffened on her shoulder, his sensitive dragon senses detecting something Kylara had missed. She froze mid-step, becoming one with the forest shadows. A scout party moved parallel to her position. 3 elven assassins dressed in the dark greens of the forest brigade, their enchanted weapons designed for silent kills. She recognized Darian, among them once her friend and training partner, now her hunter. Kylara waited, heart-pounding, until they passed, then changed direction. Moving west toward the borderlands was risky but necessary. Her supplies dwindled and Zephyr needed proper healing. The dragon tried to hide his discomfort, but she felt it through their bond. The wound from the poisoned arrow was not healing properly. Without elven medicine, he would weaken further. The sun began its descent, marking another day of survival. Kylara found a hollow beneath massive tree roots and created a small shelter. There would be no fire tonight, no warm food. The risk too great, with hunters so close. Zephyr curled against her chest, his small body radiating comforting warmth. She unfolded her last clean map and studied the terrain ahead. Human lands lay beyond the next ridge, their military outpost visible as a small mark on the parchment. Perhaps the humans would listen. Perhaps they would see the evidence before shooting. She had to try. The council grew stronger each day they remained in power. Soon the staged attacks would escalate beyond control and full war would erupt. The Shadow Dominion waiting to feast on the remains of both civilizations. Miles away beyond the forest, Border Lieutenant Abigail Winters stood before a holographic display in the command center of Outpost 7. Her brown hair pulled back in a practical bun, her uniform pressed and perfect despite the late hour. Her reputation for precision and dedication had earned her this assignment, though she now questioned the intelligence behind it. "These energy signatures make no sense." "Major Harper," she said, pointing to the unusual readings at the border. "The pattern suggests elven technology, but the movement is all wrong. Refugees don't move like this." Major Samantha Harper, a stern woman with 20 years of military experience, studied the display with narrowed eyes. "The intelligence is solid, Lieutenant." she replied, her voice carrying an unusual edge. "These are not refugees. This is the terrorist we have been tracking for months. Your orders remain capture or eliminate." Abigail frowned, studying the data again. Something felt wrong. The movement patterns showed someone avoiding conflict, not seeking it. Out of all the border incidents, none could be definitively linked to this signature. The suspect always appeared after the attacks, never during. If this was truly the mastermind behind the violence, why avoid confrontation? "I want to lead the intercept team myself," Major Abigail said, making a sudden decision. "If we can capture rather than eliminate, we might gain valuable intelligence." Harper looked at her with an unreadable expression. "Very well, Lieutenant. Your team deploys at dawn, but remember, this suspect is highly dangerous and skilled in deception. The safety of our settlements comes first." After the major left, Abigail returned to the data. Something tugged at her instincts. A career built on attention to detail had saved her life more than once. And now those same instincts screamed that the official story had holes. She pulled up the classified files again, reading between the lines. The timing never aligned, the evidence circumstantial. The only solid connection, a convenient one created in reports after the fact. As night fell across the borderlands, Abigail made preparations. Her standard gear, plus something extra. A specialized scanner designed to detect magical signatures, not just technology. If this suspect was what? The reports claimed the readings would confirm it. If not, dawn approached with heavy fog rolling across the hills. Kylara sensed danger closing in from multiple directions. The Council had deployed more than just scouts. This was a coordinated effort to drive her toward something. She could feel it in the air, a trap waiting to spring. She looked down at Zephyr, who watched her with trusting eyes. The dragon had saved her life countless times, his loyalty never wavering. Despite the hardship she had brought upon him, "They will not take us without a fight. Little one," she promised, touching her forehead to his. "Stay close to me." What neither Kylara nor Abigail realized as the new day began was that their paths were about to cross in ways that would reshape the future of two civilizations, the elven scout and the human lieutenant, both searching for truth, both questioning the orders given to them, both about to discover that the enemy was not who they had been told. The first light of dawn painted the sky in shades of orange and gold as Kylara approached the edge of the forest. Her instincts screamed danger, but moving back would only delay the inevitable. Zephyr sensed her tension and wrapped his tail more tightly around her neck, a gesture of comfort and solidarity. The small dragon had barely eaten in days, conserving his strength as the poison slowly worked through his system. Kylara paused at the tree line, scanning the rocky terrain ahead. The human outpost was visible in the distance, its metal walls reflecting the morning sun. She needed to cross the open ground quickly, but something felt wrong. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. The attack came without warning. Elven strike teams materialized. From concealed positions, their armor enhanced with shadow magic that bent light around them. Simultaneously, human soldiers in unfamiliar black gear emerged from behind rock formations. It was a coordinated ambush, with one clear target. Her Kylara drew her blade in one fluid motion, centuries of combat training guiding her movements. The first attacker fell before he could complete his strike. The second meeting, her blade mid-leap. She spun and ducked, avoiding a volley of arrows from the eastern position. Zephyr, despite his weakened state, launched from her shoulder, his small form unleashing a concentrated burst of lightning breath that scattered 3 approaching soldiers from her concealed position on a rocky outcrop. Lieutenant Abigail Winters observed the battle through enhanced optics. She had split from her assigned team after discovering their orders had been changed without her knowledge. The new directive: eliminate, not capture. Her instincts had been right. Something was very wrong with this mission. Through her scope, Abigail watched as the silver-haired elf fought with extraordinary skill and precision. This was not the crazed terrorist described in the briefings. There was no indiscriminate violence, no attacks against those who retreated. Instead, the elf moved with controlled efficiency, clearly trying to create an escape route, not a body count. Most surprising was the small dragon. something not mentioned in any report. The creature seemed injured yet, fought fiercely to protect its companion. Against all combat logic, the elf kept adjusting her position to shield the dragon, exposing herself to greater risk. Abigail shifted her focus to the attacking forces with growing confusion. The black-clad, human soldiers wore no unit insignia, their tactics unfamiliar to standard military protocol, and they were working alongside elven assassins, a collaboration that contradicted everything known about the current diplomatic situation. The elf was now surrounded, fighting against impossible odds. A blow from behind sent her to one knee. Zephyr screeched in alarm as an elven assassin raised a curved blade for the killing strike. Something snapped in Abigail. Her finger moved to the trigger, her target acquired before conscious thought fully formed. The assassin fell backward, a precision shot to the shoulder. The battlefield froze for a heartbeat, all eyes searching for the new threat. Abigail used that moment to fire 3 more shots, creating chaos in the enemy formation. Kylara did not hesitate. Grabbing Zephyr, she launched toward the gap in the encirclement, unsure who had intervened but seizing the opportunity. A human figure appeared beside her, sliding down the rocky slope, rifle in hand. "This way," the human female shouted, firing controlled bursts at their pursuers. "I have a vehicle hidden beyond the next ridge." Kylara had no time for questions. Zephyr trembled in her arms, his small body burning with fever from the poison. The human soldier moved with professional efficiency, leading them through a narrow canyon while providing covering fire. Their pursuers regrouped quickly, the elven trackers already picking up their trail. The vehicle was a small military transport, designed for rough terrain. Abigail jumped into the driver position, motioning for Kylara to get in. "Why are you helping me?" The elf asked, her voice steady, despite the exertion. "You wear their uniform." Abigail engaged the engine, the vehicle surging forward. "Those men in black are not my unit," she replied, keeping her eyes on the difficult path, and that ambush was too perfect, too coordinated. "Someone wanted you dead badly enough to arrange cooperation between our species. I want to know why." Kylara clutched Zephyr to her chest, feeling his breathing grow more labored. His scales had dulled from vibrant blue to a sickly gray. The poison was spreading faster now after the exertion of battle. She looked at the human with desperate eyes. "He needs help." The arrow that struck him was coated with shadowbane poison. Abigail glanced at the suffering creature, then back to the rough path. "I have a secure location. An old mining facility abandoned years ago. No one knows I maintain it." They traveled. Intense silence for nearly an hour, the transport navigating increasingly difficult terrain designed to discourage followers. Finally, they reached what appeared to be a collapsed mine entrance. Abigail activated a concealed panel, and a hidden door slid open just wide enough for the vehicle to enter. The interior revealed a surprisingly well-equipped bunker. Emergency lighting activated as they entered, illuminating a main room with basic medical equipment, communication devices, and supplies. The door sealed behind them with a solid thud. Abigail secured the perimeter, then turned to find Kylara kneeling on the floor. Zephyr lay gently on a thermal blanket. The dragon's condition had deteriorated rapidly, his breathing shallow and labored. "I have medical supplies, but nothing specific for dragons," Abigail said, kneeling beside them. "What does he need?" Kylara looked up, her ancient eyes filled with conflict. "I can help him." But the elf hesitated. Her hand moved to a small pouch at her belt. "The healing requires elven magic. It would reveal secrets my people have protected for millennia." Abigail met her gaze steadily. "Your people just tried to kill you both," she said quietly. "My people have orders to do the same. I think secrets are the least of our concerns right now." Decision made. Kylara opened the small pouch, removing crystals of various colors and a vial of clear liquid. She arranged them around Zephyr's still form in a precise pattern. The final crystal she placed gently on his chest, directly over his heart. "Stand back, please," she instructed, her voice soft but commanding. "This will draw considerable energy." Abigail moved away, watching with a soldier's caution and a scientist's curiosity as Kylara began to sing in the ancient elven tongue. The melody was unlike anything the human had ever heard, seeming to exist both in the air and somehow deeper. as if resonating with the very molecules around them. The crystals responded, glowing with increasing brightness. Kylara placed her hands over Zephyr, her fingers spread in a precise formation. As her song reached its peak, light flowed from her body into the dragon. The glow intensified, becoming almost painful to observe. Zephyr arched upward, his small body suspended. Momentarily in the air, Abigail watched in awe as the dragon's scales regained their color, the sickly gray replaced by vibrant blue starting from his heart and flowing outward. The wound on his side visible now as the light illuminated it began to close, dark tendrils of poison drawn out and neutralized by the crystal formation. The ritual continued for several minutes, Kylara growing visibly weaker as Zephyr grew stronger. Finally the light faded, and the elf slumped forward, catching herself. On trembling arms, Zephyr stirred, opening his eyes and chirping softly as he nuzzled his companion's hand. That was Abigail struggled to find words. Amazing. Kylara looked up, exhaustion written in every line of her face. It is our deepest magic, the connection between life forces, she explained slowly. We can transfer energy, heal wounds, but at a cost. She gestured to her own now pale complexion. I will recover with rest. Abigail brought water and rations from her supplies, setting them beside. The elf, I think we have that conversation now, she said, sitting cross-legged across from Kylara. I just violated direct orders to help you. I'm officially AWOL and likely to be labeled a traitor. I need to know why assassins from two species who barely tolerate each other were working together to kill you. Zephyr climbed into Kylara's lap, his strength returning. His intelligent eyes studied the human with curious intensity. You deserve the truth. Kylara agreed, her voice steady despite her weakened state. I was royal guard for the Elven High Council. I overheard plans for a false flag operation, attacks on human settlements blamed on Elven extremists designed to push our peoples toward war. Both sides are being manipulated by forces seeking to weaken us. Abigail frowned. Why would the council want war? They don't, Kylara responded, stroking Zephyr's back gently. They have been corrupted, influenced by the Shadow Dominion, a third power that would consume the remains of both our civilizations. After we destroy each other, I have proof. She reached for her pack, removing a crystal, similar to those used in the healing but larger with a deep purple hue. Within it swirled what appeared to be scenes, memories preserved in magical form. As Abigail leaned forward to examine the crystal, Zephyr suddenly hissed, his attention turning toward the sealed door. Both women tensed, reaching for weapons. We are not alone here, Kylara whispered. The hunters have found us. Abigail moved first, her training taking over. She grabbed her rifle and motioned Kylara toward the back room. The elf gathered Zephyr in one smooth motion, despite her weakened state. The small dragon remained alert, his eyes fixed on the sealed entrance. They need authorization codes to open the main door, Abigail whispered, activating a hidden panel in the wall that gives us minutes, not hours. The panel slid aside, revealing a narrow tunnel carved through the rock. Emergency exit, Abigail explained. I always have a backup plan. Kylara nodded in approval, a warrior recognizing another. No wonder you survived this long, she said. They will have the area surrounded. Abigail checked the small monitor beside the tunnel entrance. Heat signatures moved. Outside the facility, confirming their fears. We go deeper, she decided. There are old mining tunnels that connect to a secondary exit 3 miles north. If we can reach it. The escape was narrow, barely allowing them passage one behind the other. Emergency. Lights activated as they moved, illuminating the rough stone walls. Zephyr flew ahead, his small form perfect for scouting the tight space. Behind them came the muffled sound of the main door being breached. For 2 hours they navigated the labyrinth of tunnels. Abigail guided them through junctions and collapsed sections, her knowledge of the abandoned mine proving invaluable. Finally they emerged through a concealed exit into a dense forest, miles from their starting point. We should be safe, for now, Abigail said, scanning the area with practiced eyes. This region is rarely patrolled. Too many false readings from mineral deposits. Kylara sank down against a tree trunk, her energy still depleted from the healing ritual Zephyr landed on, her shoulder chirping softly in her ear. The dragon seemed to have recovered completely, his scales now shimmering with renewed vitality. "Thank you," Kylara said, her ancient eyes meeting Abigail's. "Few would risk everything for strangers," Abigail checked, her weapons and supplies before sitting across from the elf. "Not strangers anymore," she replied. "And not just for you. Something is very wrong in my chain of command. Those soldiers working with elven assassins wore modified human military gear. Need answers as much as you do." Kylara reached into her pack and removed the memory crystal, its surface catching the filtered sunlight. "This contains council meetings I witnessed before my escape," she explained. "It shows everything. Their deal with the Shadow Dominion, the planned attacks, the list of compromised human officials." Abigail leaned forward, studying the crystal. "How do we access it?" Kylara hesitated, then held the crystal between them. Zephyr moved to sit between them, forming a triangle. Normally this requires elven blood, but Zephyr can help. She looked at the dragon, who seemed to understand his role. "The memories are stored as energy patterns. He can translate them, make them visible to both of us." Zephyr placed one small, clawed foot on the crystal and closed his eyes. A soft glow emanated from his scales, spreading to encompass the crystal. The air between them shimmered, and an image formed, floating above the crystal like a hologram, but composed of pure light. "Counselor." Elindra stood before them, her tall, elegant form radiating authority despite being merely a memory. Her silver robes marked her as head of the High Council. Around her sat 12 other elven nobles, their faces grave as she spoke. "The humans grow more aggressive with each passing season," she said in the memory. "Their technology advances while our magic wanes. The ancient pact that separated our worlds weakens. They will discover us eventually. We must strike first." Another counselor spoke, one Kylara identified as Thalen, her former commander. "The old treaties have served us well, Elindra," he argued. "We have no proof humans seek conflict." Elindra smiled, a cold expression. "That is why we will create the proof the Shadow King has provided us with the means to manipulate key human military leaders. Their minds are more susceptible to influence than our kind. The attacks will appear to come from human separatists. Their evidence will point to elven extremists. Each side will blame the other." The memory shifted, showing another meeting, this one darker, more secretive. Elindra met with a figure shrouded in swirling darkness, its form barely visible. "Where are my artifacts?" "Shadow King," she demanded. "Our agreement specified 3 deliveries." The shadow figure seemed to laugh, though no sound came through the memory. "The human female Harper has been fully converted," it said, its voice like gravel. "The commander named Winters shows resistance. Her mind is strong, but ultimately she will fall. All humans do. Eventually their own officers will hunt down any who question the narrative." The memory faded, Zephyr releasing the crystal with a small chirp of exhaustion. Abigail sat frozen, her face pale. "Major Harper, my direct superior, the Shadow Dominion has her under control." Kylara nodded grimly. "The influence is subtle at first. Suggestions that align with existing biases, eventually complete control. The Shadow feeds on conflict, harvests the energy of war." For days they remained hidden, establishing a temporary camp in the forest. Abigail used her military access codes to tap into secure networks from a safe distance. While Kylara studied the memory, Crystal seeking additional information, Zephyr recovered his strength, hunting small prey and keeping watch. Their investigation revealed a pattern that horrified both of them. The Shadow Dominion had agents throughout human military and political structures, each positioned to escalate tensions, each ready to trigger incidents that would push both species toward war. "We need to expose them," Abigail said one evening as they reviewed their findings. "But who can we trust? The evidence suggests infiltration at the highest levels." Kylara looked thoughtful. "The elven resistance still exists. Those who opposed the council when corruption first appeared. They operate in shadows but have channels of communication." As they spoke, Zephyr suddenly perked up, his head tilted as if listening to something beyond human or even elven hearing. He jumped down from his perch and approached them, standing directly between Kylara and Abigail. He placed one paw on each of their hands and closed his eyes. A strange sensation washed over them both, like a door opening in their minds. Abigail gasped, as thoughts not her own flowed into her consciousness. Images, feelings, concepts all mingling together. "I can help you both." Zephyr's voice, clear as crystal, resonated in their minds. "The human language is limited, but together we can understand." Kylara stared at her companion in wonder. Young dragons were not supposed to develop telepathic abilities until much older. This gift comes early. "Little one." "It was necessity," Zephyr explained. "The poison accelerated certain changes. The healing completed. Them I can bridge your minds, allow true communication. Through this three-way connection, a deeper understanding developed." Kylara shared memories of elven culture. Thousands of years of history compressed into images and emotions. Abigail offered human perspectives, showing her people not as the barbarians elven propaganda claimed, but as complex beings seeking meaning and connection. Their bond strengthened with each passing day, Zephyr maintaining the mental link whenever needed. They developed a plan. The council would meet with human officials in 3 weeks' time, a summit supposedly to discuss border incidents. In reality, the final step before orchestrated attacks would trigger full-scale war. "If we can present our evidence there," Abigail suggested both sides at once. Their planning was interrupted by a sudden shift in Zephyr's attention. The dragon hissed a warning seconds before the first explosion rocked their camp. Assassins had found them, elven and human, working in tandem there, weapons enhanced with shadow magic. The battle was chaotic, their small clearing erupting into violence. Kylara moved with deadly precision. Despite still recovering her strength, Abigail provided covering fire, her military training evident in every calculated shot. Zephyr darted between attackers, his lightning breath stunning those who got too close. They fought well together, their newfound mental connection allowing coordinated movements without words. But they were outnumbered, a shadow enhanced. Elven Archer took position in the trees, his arrow aimed not at the warriors but at the small dragon. Abigail saw the danger first. Without hesitation, she threw herself into the path of the arrow. The poisoned tip pierced her shoulder, darkness spreading. Instantly from the wound, she fell to her knees, gasping as the shadow poison entered her system. Kylara cried out in alarm, dispatching her opponent and rushing to Abigail's side. The human had saved Zephyr, knowing full well what shadow poison could. Kylara faced a terrible choice: flee with their evidence or risk everything to save the human who had become her ally. Kylara made her choice without hesitation. The evidence meant nothing if they lost each other. She knelt beside Abigail, cradling the human in her arms. The shadow poison spread visibly beneath the skin, dark tendrils moving toward the heart. Zephyr landed beside them, his eyes reflecting understanding and fear. He knew what Kylara planned to do. The forbidden magic was taught only to the highest healers, the sharing of life force, not just energy but essence. "I need your help." "Little one," Kylara whispered. "The connection must be threefold to bridge our different natures." The dragon positioned himself, touching both women, his scales beginning to glow with inner light. Kylara placed one hand over Abigail's wound and the other over her own heart. She began to sing not the healing melody from before, but something older, more primal. The ancient words carried power drawn from the deepest roots of elven magic. Pain shot through Kylara's body as she opened herself completely. The shadow poison began to flow, reversed course drawn from Abigail into her own system, where elven resistance could fight it. The process created something unexpected. A connection formed between them similar to the ancient elven practice of soul-linking warriors in battle. Their hearts synchronized, their minds brushed against each other. Abigail's eyes flew open, gasping as the poison retreated. She felt Kylara's presence not just physically but within her mind. Emotions flowed between them: fear, courage, determination. The human instinctively reached out, mental barriers falling away as the connection strengthened. Zephyr maintained the bridge, his own consciousness, the neutral ground where elf and human could meet safely. The three formed a bond that transcended Species a sharing that went beyond words or even thoughts. When the ritual ended, Abigail sat up weakened but alive. The arrow wound had closed, leaving only a small silver scar. Kylara swayed her silver-blue hair, now streaked with white from the exertion, and are linked. Now, the elf explained, her voice barely above a whisper. Soul bonded. It was not intended, but the magic followed the path of least resistance. Abigail felt the connection, a warm presence in her mind, like knowing another person stood in a room without seeing them. I can sense where you are, she said with wonder. And something of what you feel, Kylara nodded. The bond will fade with time, but for now it gives us advantage. Our enemies cannot surprise us while we feel each other's presence. They relocated deeper into the wilderness, their connection allowing seamless coordination without words. As Kylara recovered her strength, Abigail used her military contacts to identify potential allies. The shadow influence was extensive, but not complete. Their first recruit came unexpectedly. A human journalist named Olivia Daniels tracked them to their camp, her investigative skills impressive even to Kylara. She had been researching unexplained deaths among diplomats working on human-elven relations, and followed the pattern to Major Harper. I know something is wrong, Olivia told them, her determination evident. My editor was killed after we started investigating the border incidents. The official reports don't match witness accounts. I'm certain there is coordination behind these events. Zephyr approached the journalist cautiously, then nudged Abigail's hand, communicating silently. She speaks truth. The shadow has not touched her, with Olivia's help. They contacted Madeline Reeves, a former military pilot discharged after questioning unusual flight orders near the Elven border. Her call sign, Mad Dog, reflected her reputation for fearlessness and her refusal to back down from authority. Mad Dog brought technical expertise and access to transportation. They would need both. Their final ally came from Kylara's past Talia Brightwood, an elven healer who had secretly opposed the council for decades, maintained contact with the resistance. Talia arrived at their hidden camp under cover of night, her green eyes widening at the sight of Kylara and Abigail working side by side, their movements mirroring each other. Evidence of their soul bond. So the rumors are true, Talia said. You have bonded with a human. The resistance will see this as confirmation of your commitment. The expanded team formulated their plan. The annual Convergence Summit would bring human diplomats together with loyal elven representatives in 3 days. The council planned to use this gathering to trigger the final series of events leading to war. Key figures would be assassinated, evidence planted, blame assigned. The Shadow Dominion would feed on the conflict, harvesting energy from both sides. We need to expose them all at once, Abigail said, studying the summit security plans. Their evidence had to reach both human leadership and elven resistance simultaneously. Kylara proposed the solution. Infiltrating the summit security systems, Olivia would position herself to broadcast their evidence, while Madeline and Talia created a diversion. Zephyr would maintain the mental link between them all, allowing perfect coordination despite distance. The plan was dangerous, bordering on suicidal, but they had no choice. The summit would proceed in the capital city at the Convergence Hall, a neutral space designed for diplomatic meetings. Security would be unprecedented, with both human technology and elven magic forming layers of protection as final preparations were made. Abigail felt Kylara's doubt through their bond. The elf stood alone, staring at the night sky, her thoughts heavy with responsibility. We may not survive this, Kylara said softly as Abigail approached. The shadow magic at the summit will be powerful. Elindra herself will be present. Abigail stood beside her, their shoulders touching slightly, strengthening their connection through proximity. Then we die, knowing we tried, she replied simply. My life was simpler before you crashed into it, but not better. The day of the summit arrived clear and cool. The team moved into position using Abigail's knowledge of security protocols and Kylara's understanding of elven wards. Madeline piloted their transport, a modified civilian craft with military enhancements, landing them on a service roof while Talia worked subtle magic to redirect attention. The infiltration proceeded smoothly, too smoothly, Kylara realized as they accessed the central security hub. No alarms had triggered, despite crossing multiple checkpoints. It felt like a trap, Zephyr communicated, the warning through their mental link seconds before security panels flashed red. Around them, hidden doors opened, revealing Shadow Dominion agents, their forms flickering between human elven and something darker. They had underestimated the enemy. The summit was more deeply compromised than they had realized. The Shadow Dominion had agents in place throughout the security system, and the assassinations had been moved ahead of schedule. Diplomats were already falling, chaos spreading through. The summit hall's fighting erupted as their team split apart. Olivia, protected by Talia, raced to reach the broadcast center, while Madeline secured their escape route. Kylara and Abigail moved back-to-back, their combat styles merging through their bond, each anticipating the other's movements, creating a deadly synchronized defense against enemies from three factions. When Grand Counselor Elindra herself appeared on the battlefield, her silver robes replaced by armor that seemed to absorb light, the true scope of her power became clear. She had undergone partial transformation infused with shadow energy that made her nearly invulnerable. Her once beautiful features now held elements of the Shadow Dominion, elongated and sharp. Kylara faced, her former leader's sword drawn while Abigail engaged the guards. "What have you become?" "Elindra," the Grand Counselor laughed. "Power beyond your comprehension. Little guard." She gestured and shadow tendrils erupted from the ground, separating Kylara from her companions. The elf fought brilliantly, but Elindra was no longer bound by physical limitations. Her attacks came from multiple directions, simultaneously, cornered and outnumbered. It seemed the elven warrior's journey would end there. Until Abigail, guided by their soul link, arrived with unexpected reinforcements. A squadron of human soldiers who had seen Olivia's broadcast evidence, led by none other than Major Harper, now free from magical influence and determined to make amends. The Great Hall of the Convergence Summit became a battlefield as human soldiers clashed with shadow agents. Elindra snarled at the sight of Major Harper leading reinforcements. The human female had been one of her strongest pawns, now turned against her. "You cannot stop what has already begun," Elindra shouted, her voice distorted by shadow energy. "The convergence of worlds is inevitable." Kylara used the momentary distraction to rejoin Abigail, their bond flaring stronger as they moved side by side through their mental link. Zephyr coordinated their movements with the human soldiers, creating a unified front against the shadow forces. The battle intensified, shadow agents revealing their true forms as the pretense of diplomacy fell away. The wounded and terrified diplomats were evacuated by Olivia and Talia, while Madeline secured air support from outside. Elindra retreated toward the central chamber where ancient elven artifacts had been displayed for the summit. These were not mere symbols of cooperation, but tools. The Shadow King had provided them for this moment. Activation crystals that would tear open the barriers between worlds. "We have to stop her," Kylara communicated through their bond. "She intends to open a direct portal to the Shadow Dominion." Abigail nodded, understanding flowing between them. They fought their way forward, Harper and her soldiers providing covering fire as they approached the central chamber. The massive doors sealed behind them, trapping the three companions with Elindra. The transformed counselor stood before a circle of dark crystals, each pulsing with malevolent energy. Her form had changed further, her elegant elven features now twisted into something inhuman, scales forming along her arms, her eyes pools of darkness. "You are too late," Elindra said. "The ritual has begun. The Shadow King comes." Zephyr suddenly stiffened on Kylara's shoulder, his small body trembling with unexpected energy. The dragon had sensed something in the shadow magic, something that resonated with his own nature. Dragons were creatures of primal magic, their origins predating both elven and human history. The little dragon launched from Kylara's shoulder, flying directly toward the center of the crystal formation. Elindra laughed at what seemed like a futile attack, but her amusement turned to shock as Zephyr began to change. Power surged through the chamber as the dragon grew, his form expanding in seconds from the size of a small cat to that of a horse. His scales hardened, his wings spread wide, blocking the crystals from Elindra's control. Ancient magic awakened within him, responding to the threat. Zephyr has reached his ascension. Kylara gasped. The stress has triggered what should have taken decades. The transformed dragon roared the sound, shaking the foundations of the building. His eyes glowed with pure arcane energy as he faced Elindra. The shadow corruption faltered against this unexpected development, dragon magic being one of the few forces the Shadow Dominion truly feared. Now Zephyr communicated the command ringing through their bond. Kylara and Abigail attacked from opposite sides, their movements perfectly synchronized, one with elven speed and grace, the other with human determination and strength, each complementing the other, their bond allowing them to fight as a single warrior with two bodies. Elindra fought with the power of the Shadow Dominion tendrils of darkness, lashing out freezing energy, draining life where it touched. But she faced something unprecedented, an elf and human bound together by magic and purpose, with a dragon at the peak of transformation supporting them. The battle reached its climax as Zephyr unleashed his breath weapon, not the small lightning bursts of before, but pure arcane fire that burned through shadow magic like paper. The combined attack drove Elindra back against the crystal formation, her defenses faltering. With a final coordinated strike, Kylara and Abigail pierced through Elindra's shadow armor, revealing the corrupted elf beneath Zephyr, followed with focused dragon fire burning away the shadow influence, defeated but not destroyed. Elindra reached for a final crystal hidden within her armor. "You may have stopped me," she snarled. "But the Shadow King has many servants." The crystal glowed with ominous light as she crushed it in her hand, activating a fail-safe. The chamber began to shake, columns cracking as destructive magic cascaded through the structure. "This entire wing will collapse," Elindra laughed, burying all evidence, all witnesses. The ceiling started to give way, massive stones falling around them. Zephyr roared again, trying to shield them with his wings, but even his new size was insufficient against the collapsing building. Kylara realized what needed to be done. Without hesitation, she pushed Abigail toward the exit. "Take Zephyr. Go." The soul bond flared between them as Kylara channeled the last of her magical reserves into, creating a protective barrier around her companions. Abigail felt Kylara's intention through their bond and refused. "No," she shouted, fighting against the magical barrier. "I won't leave you." The human fought through the protective magic, her determination stronger than Kylara's spell. Their connection provided an unexpected solution, Zephyr creating a three-way bond stronger than before, allowing Abigail to temporarily channel elven magic through their connection. With strength she didn't know humans could possess, Abigail pulled Kylara from the ruins seconds before the entire structure imploded. They emerged into daylight, battered and exhausted but alive. Zephyr maintained his larger form, providing shelter with his wings as they collapsed to safety. Harper and her soldiers secured the perimeter while medical teams rushed to assist the wounded. In the days that followed, the world changed. The evidence broadcast by Olivia revealed the full scope of the conspiracy, both human and elven. Societies began the painful process of identifying and removing corrupted officials. The Shadow Dominion's influence had been extensive but not complete. Survivors from both councils formed a joint human-elven security council to guard against future threats. Kylara and Abigail were appointed as the first co-leaders, their unique bond making them perfect ambassadors between worlds. Zephyr, unable to maintain his full size, permanently settled into a form between his original small shape and his battle transformation. He became a symbol of the new alliance, his ability to communicate with both species proving invaluable. Ancient elven libraries were opened to human scholars, while human technology was shared with elven artisans, creating new approaches to old problems. The combined knowledge accelerated advancements in both societies, providing stronger defenses against shadow incursions. 3 months after the battle, Kylara and Abigail stood on the balcony of the new joint embassy. Watching the sunset, Zephyr rested across both their shoulders, his telepathic link maintaining their connection. The dragon's scales shimmered with health, his growth steady but controlled. "When I first saw you through my scope, you were just another target," Abigail said finally, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Kylara smiled, warmth flowing through their bond. "And now you are the reason I understand what it means to be truly human," Abigail replied. "Sometimes the most important battles we fight aren't against enemies but against our own preconceptions." Below them, humans and elves worked together, rebuilding what had been damaged in the shadow conflict. In the distance, reports of unusual activity suggested the Shadow Dominion had not been completely defeated. Their greatest challenges still lay ahead. But for the first time in millennia, two species faced the future as one united against a common enemy, strengthened by understanding what neither could have achieved alone. And it had begun with a simple choice. A human soldier deciding to save rather than destroy Zephyr, rumbled contentedly, sensing their thoughts. The dragon knew better than anyone that the bond between them transcended the physical. No matter what challenges came next, they would face them together. The former target and the soldier who refused to take the shot had forged something the Shadow Dominion feared more than any weapon: hope.